Future-Proof is sponsored by Learn Smart Academy, online revision courses for GCSE and A-Level. All your revision in one place, organised for you, interactive and game-changing.
Welcome back from the break. Thank you so much for joining me, Sarah Hopwood, as I continue this programme looking at building an effective team. And just going into the break, I was talking about a gap analysis. So this is an opportunity to reassess what it is that the business wants, whether you've got all the right things and people and processes and what have you, all the skills and resources available to you. And also you could even maybe do a competitor analysis as well, see what they are all doing, which some of that information could then feed into your gap analysis. It might be that you want to specialise in something because your competitor is a crowded market, or it might be that you want to diversify. Or there's all sorts of things. So I'm not going to read through what's on this gap analysis, but I am going to explain just how it works. So I love the way that the assessment, the scoring works here, that 0 is I don't know, or it's average. And if you look, you can see you've then got -5 to +5. And this is really much more accurate scoring than you get if you just say, could you give me a score 1 to 10? Very, very good idea is to use this with your kids. How was your day at school today? And -5 +5 will give you a much more accurate reading as to what is really going on in their heads. Because, you know, as soon as you see a minus, then it obviously means that things aren't going quite as well as you want them to go, or they want them to go, or I thought they would go. And then those numbers can really give you, as I say, a much more accurate reading. So you go through and you score where you are now. And then you look at your target score, and that is obviously what you want that score to be in the future. Please be careful, you're not looking at 5 for everything. This is prioritising. So I would think maybe choose your top 3 priorities are the most important things, and they might actually then be focusing on wanting to score, predicting a score of 5, because they are so important. It's obviously very important you score high on them. But some things that are less important but are still relevant may not actually need to have a 5. It could just be that maybe a 4 would be okay. We don't actually need a 5. So once you've marked where you are now, where you want to be, you then look, what is the gap between those 2 scores? And once you know what the gap is, and so here on this example, those gaps are highlighted in yellow, they tell you where you need to start your strategic planning, your problem solving, your action plans, and maybe choosing a project team or 2 to work on those 2 areas. And if you think of the Pareto rule 80-20, then if you work on those 2, then you will directly or indirectly impact on much of the rest, if not all of the rest anyway. So balanced team models there. You've got the chief executive up at the top, and then you've got obviously senior management and what have you working down. But also you look at what is impacting the people at the top and where their considerations are. And so often in the business, not everybody knows what's going on, and a lot of people don't know what the senior leadership team are coping with and dealing with. Sometimes it's not important for us to actually know, but I do think it's important for everybody to be aware that what's going on is not just what you're seeing. There's often hidden stuff that is going on, and always be careful and mindful of any hidden conflict that can happen in a senior team, because if you get that eating into the boardroom, the business really can't do much of moving forward until that is sorted. And I have to say, my husband Paul is very, very good at sorting out some of those issues. So once you've done the gap analysis, and once you have, got an idea, if you like, of what's impacting, where you then have your magic wand. And this is quite good to do it as a team and do it in your departments, so that you get different viewpoints and magic wands. So you could do it in a massive room and get quite a few people in. But I find that you get much more stuff and content to consider if you actually break the groups up and everybody's given the opportunity to have a magic wand. And the thing is, it sounds simple. And I remember once leading 100 managers, and they kind of tittered when I talked about the magic wands. And I leant into the microphone and I said it again. And I said, this is a very serious question. If you had a magic wand, what is it that you would like to change, see, or to do differently? And really, it's basically if there's no barriers of time, money, emotions, geography, finances, I've said, money, relationships. If there are no barriers at all, what is it that you want? Supply line, for example, what is it that you want? And then you can look at those lists, maybe pick, let's say, the top 3 from each of the lists, put them all together and then Pareto it, 80-20 it, and then everybody then, perhaps a larger group, can then choose the top 4 maybe, or top 5 points. And that will really give you an indication of where the business needs to go. Be very careful about needs and wants. What we want isn't always what we need as individuals nor as the business. So the psychology of a team. When teams come together, we obviously form them, we choose them. Make sure you choose the right skill set for the job that the team needs to do. If you are missing anything, very often leader, thinker, doer, carer, or if you're missing something, then nominate somebody and say, I know that you usually specialise in HR, for example, but today I want you to focus on geography, for example, the geographical impact. And a lot of people are able to just make that switch and wear a different hat for that task, and it will really help bring about the results that you want. But you have the forming, but very often once you've got over the honeymoon period, you have the storming. And the key thing there is to fail early. If there is something blatantly obviously wrong for one reason or another, then fail early, fail quickly and sort it out. Change the team member, change the venue, whatever it is. Don't try and forge forward if it is very obviously wrong. Other than that, sit in the unease and try and work through it, because even if you went and got another team or got another team member, you would still go through this phase of the storming. Then you get the norming, people settle into their roles, there might be some shuffling that's going on, maybe people are humbled and step back in some way, somebody else might need to step up and step forward, but you then move into performing. And that's a very powerful place to be. And as you're doing that, always make sure the team know before they start how they are going to be reporting back. Whoever is in charge of it or what have you, how are you going to be reporting back on the team's findings? Is it a presentation? Is it a white paper? Is it a video? What is it? So that they can, in their minds, and as they're collating information, they can be thinking the whole time as to how the final presentation, how it's going to work with the final presentation. Also in their teams, you need 4 elements of leader, thinker, doer, carer. And a way to really show the value of this is to ask the question of what happens if you don't have the variety. So what happens if you have a team of 4 and they're all leaders? They all fight. If they're all doers, they're all running around like ants, but no one's actually leading. They don't really know what's going on. If they're all carers, then they're very socially aware and caring, but there's no strategy taking place. There's no information logging or structure going on. And thinkers are usually quiet people. In most businesses, there are fewer thinkers than there are anybody else, but you often say the thinkers are the ones that you really need to wean out their points of view, because they can have a massive impact. And sometimes if you don't actually go and knock on their door and ask them, they won't tell you, and you miss this vital contribution to the whole process and to the conversation. So in group dynamics, you can have personal conflict, you can have interdepartmental rivalry. Some people do it on purpose, but make sure it's healthy. People may not want to be on the team, so there's a way of persuading there. Very often if they don't want to, often it's what's in it for me or why should I? And if you can answer what's in it for me or why should I, then you might be able to get them in. But also don't push it and force it, because if they really don't want to be there and there's no persuasion available, then they will sabotage the process. So be careful what you forge and push forward. And some people can have problems with a leader. And here I just want to say there's a great saying, to choose to be a leader is like choosing to be ugly. please be respectful of leaders. You know, they are sticking their necks out. Make sure that you choose the right leaders, and sometimes it could be a concessionary thing. Okay, you lead this one and I'll lead the next one. You know, I don't know what fits in there, but if people have a problem with a leader, that needs to be short-lived. But also the other thing is a code of conduct. Before you start, everybody writes up the rules, the team choose the rules of the team, and they all sign that document. And one of them should be, we do not talk about other people behind their backs. We don't run down somebody because we don't like what's going on. If you've got something to say, you say it in the room when everybody's there, and there's no kind of tittering by the vending machine. And that's really, really important, and it stops the sabotaging, the undermining that can take place. So I hope you've enjoyed this opening program. I will continue it in the next program, looking at building a powerful project team, successful, outcome-based, focused team building, functioning process and body of people. So I'll see you soon.